treasure. That is what you are. You're my golden star. If you make my wish come true, let me treasure you.
Gail Boyle, and I'm a member of the Mamaroneck Historical Society. And we are absolutely thrilled that you are here today to join us in this community event. It's a celebration of Mamaroneck's history, and a celebration of education and our commitment to education in the Mamaroneck community. So I want you to please join me in welcoming Mamaroneck High School student Grace Mafucci to the microphone. Grace is kicking off our Jubilee welcoming ceremony, leading us all in the Star-Spangled Banner. Wait till the alarms go.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare above bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the
Thank you, Grace. That was beautiful. Thank you. Today's event, the 1816 Schoolhouse Jubilee and Historical Exposition, is made possible through the support of many members of our community working in partnership with the Mamaroneck Historical Society. Excuse me while I turn the page. So first, I'd like to introduce you to the Mamaroneck Historical Society President, Carol Aiken. And Carol's going to introduce you to people who made this schoolhouse life possible. Thank you, Gail. And again, from me, welcome to our Bicentennial Jubilee. This is such a wonderful community celebration for this wonderful little 1816 schoolhouse. I'd like to begin by thanking our devoted Jubilee Committee Chairman, Michael Tripico, who orchestrated the multitudinous details in planning this entire day. Thank you all. The committee members were Gail Boyle, our events chairman we just heard from, John Pritz, the one in uniform over here, the back of a 200-year-old uniform, Liz Rogers, Mike's wife, Peter Fellows, wherever he may be, Janie Fellows, Ray Maldonado, John Sutherland, and me. And now I would like to introduce a few local dignitaries, and please, if I've missed anyone, please let me know. Thank you. Great. Dr. Barbara Ferraro is here, wherever she is. She is the principal of Mamaroneck High School, and we're very appreciative of her coming. She was here around here a minute ago. Yeah, maybe over there. Yeah. And Jane Inney, who's a Town of Mamaroneck board member, wherever she is. Yes, she is. And I'm not going to introduce the speakers right now. I'll introduce those in a minute. So you may see more dignitaries here than I'm introducing right now. But our last that I want to introduce is our wonderful historian, Gloria Posha Pritz. And I have to say, that dear Gloria is the one who we can thank for this schoolhouse. There are many people to thank who put in a lot of effort, but Gloria saw it for sale and said, we have to buy this. And the Historical Society did, with the help of Susie Oppenheimer, our state senator. I don't know if she's here yet, but she got the grant for us. But it was Gloria's idea that started this whole ball rolling, and this is our success story. So we thank you so much, Gloria. So the successful preservation and restoration of this schoolhouse bears witness to the necessity of being alert when one of Mamaroneck's historic buildings is in danger. This is a real success story, and it documents our community's early efforts in providing a place for children to have their education. We have from time to time often not had success. The Mamaroneck Playhouse structure is still there, but we think it will be changed inside by its owner, considering retail and apartments instead, and thus it will no longer be a movie theater. Another example, in spite of valiant efforts, the 1790 Gedney Farmhouse, the oldest building in Mamaroneck, was demolished a few years ago by the Rhinebeck Board of Ed. So tangible history can disappear very quickly. Our Mamaroneck community must awaken and be advocates for preservation. The Mamaroneck Historical Society and Friends of the 1792 Delancey Cooper House are still working to save this wonderful home, which is right across the street, down at the corner of Fenimore and the Post Road, for anyone who hasn't seen it. That's our oldest home in Mamaroneck, our oldest large home in Mamaroneck remaining. The first well-known American author, James Fenimore Cooper, was married in that house to Susan Delancey, and he lived there for a few years and actually wrote his first novel, well-known novel there. The house needs our most immediate efforts, since at any time a bid from a developer would threaten its future, as it almost did last summer. We would love to save it and purchase it. It would help create a sort of a little historical district with a schoolhouse here, the Delancey Cooper House there, up in back of it, Heathcote Hill, where a Revolutionary War battle was fought, and there's several other related historic sites within walking distance of the schoolhouse, all right near each other. However, our most exciting plan, for anyone who hasn't heard about it yet, is to create a Mamaroneck Historical Museum. Our pictures and maps, which you can see over there in the tent today, are fascinating, and they're priceless. But together with our other files, documents, and artifacts, which make up our general archives, they're stored for most of the year in 4 or 5 different places around town, because we don't have any area large enough to house them and, above all, display them. No one can enjoy them. A museum would not only enable us to have all our archives in one place, but even better, they would all be available for perusal and research for you, the community. If you get a chance, go visit the Historical Society table, where there's information on how we would like to accomplish our goal of saving the Delancey House, and it describes our financial plans as well. Think what it took, as we think about buildings, think what it took to build any kind of structure back 200 years ago without the modern conveniences. Land had to be cleared without bulldozers. There were no electric saws, drills, boxes of nails you could run down to Home Depot and buy. Not to mention, before the late 1790s, there was no sawmill, so there was no lumberyard locally. No lumberyard. Think about that. Hand saws and hatchets cut boards out of the trees. Nails were hand hewn. If you look closely at the siding on the Delancey house over there, you'll see that the handmade nails are still there. Thus, we all should have a deep respect for the historic structures still remaining in Mamaroneck as buildings, and each one representing an enormous effort in its initial creation. We mustn't ever take that for granted. Actually, in the middle of the Delancey Cooper House restaurant, which is the Piccolo Casa, over on the side, there's a huge 12 by 12 beam that you can see. And if you go over and examine that, you will see that it was hand hewn. Now think about trying to do that in the process of starting to build a house. That was the center beam of the house, and it goes all the way up 2 stories. It's still there. We all can rejoice that in Mamaroneck Village, in Mamaroneck Town and Larchmont Village, the boards are revisiting zoning laws, building regulations, and 2 of the 3 have had moratoriums in order to rethink, reduce the number of teardowns, and regulate outsized McMansions being built on properties too small. This has been in places threatening to change the character of our neighborhoods. Kudos to the boards for listening to the community. And as a result, many more than one home will be spared that is historic. Saving our history is really preserving a sense of our past identity as a community developed. We'd like to invite everyone who's interested to consider joining the Historical Society and taking an active part with us in our efforts to protect our local heritage. Applications are available over at the Society's table there under a tree. And now we have some people who were very important to saving the schoolhouse. And is Susie here yet? Still no Susie? Okay, well, anyway, they'd like to say a few words. Former town supervisor, this is Valerie O'Keefe.
Since I'm the least important, I'm going to have the least number of words. The thing that was interesting about this is Gloria was the spark. You see, not a leaf fell in the Larchmont or Mamaroneck Historical Society purview that Gloria didn't see, and she noticed that the place was for sale up in the flats. So the question was, how are we going to get a hold of it and move it down here? And she and John Quadrini came to the town board and told us how important this was. And there were a lot of naysayers from the, like Con Ed and all kinds of people said, well, you're going to have to move this thing, and they're electric wires and they're telephone wires, and you're going to have to move this, and it's going to cost too much, and the thing will fall off the rollers, and we don't know if it's healthy enough as a building that it won't collapse on the way. But Gloria, being single-minded and having the prescience to know that this would be a great success if we were here, she pushed forward, and so did John Quadrini of happy memory, the man you'll remember who started the ambulance with the green stamps. Well, anyway, the 2 of them were very persistent, and we worked with the village of Mamaroneck, and we got this accomplished. So I want to thank everybody who was there then and who's there now. And to have the prescience and the foresight and the stick-to-itiveness to identify historical places and to continue to push for it, kudos to Gloria. I have an idea. As long as I'm here, I'm going to tell it to you. On the corner of Palmer Avenue and Weaver Street, there's a park. And in the park, there's a thing that looks like a tombstone. It is a tombstone, I guess. I think one of the Megans went to an undertaker tombstone shop and bought this thing. And it says on it, site of Sunday school. That's all it says. Well, the Mamaroneck Methodist Church had a Sunday school on that corner. When that place went out of business, the Mamaroneck Methodist Church donated that to the town of Mamaroneck as a park. But I think whoever is the person who does this, maybe it's Carol, there should be some kind of a historical sign there, even if we have to put it up ourselves. It's not one of those blue things that the state gives you, because people don't know what it is. They're in buses and they get off and they look at the tombstone and they say, what is this? And it's not clear. So that's a homework assignment. Thank you.
So, right. So here is our Assemblyman, Steve Otis.
Thank you, Karen.
I have to say, he was also instrumental. He was Susie Oppenheimer's assistant at the time that she was state senator, and played a good, big role in helping with the schoolhouse.
Thank you, Carol. Susie's going to be here shortly, and she'll tell you how excited she was to be able to play a role in finding a state grant to save and move this building. So you'll hear from her, but I'll tell you as a witness to this, because I worked closely with Susie on getting the grant, how really excited Susie was that this was saved. And this is larger than a schoolhouse and larger than just this one location. as Carol was indicating before, our community fabric is under threat. Our community fabric is under threat, under assault. This is a piece of the architectural history of Larchmont and Mamaroneck, and so much of our architectural history is under assault today. This should be not just a symbol for the good programs that are going on here, which is a great thing, but a symbol and an inspiration that we do more to protect the great architecture of the town and the two villages. It is so important. It is really what keeps this community unique, and we don't want to lose it. And so the schoolhouse was just one piece of the pie of protecting what we have. Congratulations to everybody that helped. Congratulations to Carol and to Gloria and Valerie and everybody else that was involved. I'm just happy to be here and happy to help save a great old building. Thank you, Carol.
Well, we are graced today with some local dignitaries who want to be part of this wonderful celebration. And our next speaker is County Legislator Catherine Parker, who would like to say a few words.
Thank you, Carol. It is really a pleasure to be here in Mamaroneck today, and it is great to see a very large crowd here to celebrate the bicentennial of the old schoolhouse. I do want to say thank you to Carol Aiken and the committee for putting this together, because it is absolutely no small accomplishment to have this. And by the way, I don't know how you arranged the weather, but good job on that one, right? And the other thing that I think is pretty amazing, that is very symbolic for our community's understanding and respect and love of history, is that we don't have to look much farther, and literally just 4 hours later, we are going to be watching history in the making when Hamilton the musical wins maybe 16 Tony Awards tonight. And I think it really does speak to the fact that we in America, in New York, in Mamaroneck, our history is so important to our community. I want to also acknowledge Gloria Pritz. You just were amazing at getting this building, moving it here. You know, that grant was a $30,000 grant that I read about. And I have to say, thank goodness you had the foresight to recognize that was going to be money well spent in preserving this building for this community. I grew up in northern Westchester. I grew up in Bedford Village. And Bedford Village at one time had been the seat of Westchester County. So as county legislator, I think that there's something to be said for the fact that probably 200 years ago, when this became the old schoolhouse, or with the new schoolhouse then, that there was probably a Westchester County representative from Bedford. So today you have a county representative from Bedford who has, in Bedford, there is a schoolhouse that's been preserved, the one-room schoolhouse. And as a child, it was one of my favorite places to go. And I think to make that connection for the school children of Mamaroneck, to be able to see the chairs and the desks, the ink wells that those children had used, the tablets, is so important and critical to bring the past to the present. So I want to thank you, your foresight again in saving this building. We really cannot say enough. But I am so happy to be here to celebrate this wonderful centennial. Thank you very much.
Susie, you're on. Our former state senator for over 20 years, Susie Oppenheimer.
28 years, but who's counting? And 8 years mayor, who's counting? I guess I'm here to tell you. Okay, there was this house, which was on the hill in Harbor Heights, or maybe at the other end of town. And it was being used as a home. And the home had been pretty much, the original had pretty much been obliterated. The outside all had asphalt shingles on it. I mean, it didn't look very good. But there's Gloria. Oh, Gloria can't be here. Okay, our historian said, I thought you're being honored today, elsewhere. And so I found out that that was the original schoolhouse and that it had been turned into a residence and moved. And so, because everybody felt so passionately about it, and I guess me too, I've been interested in historic preservation since I was a kid. So the question was, what were we going to do? Because someone had purchased that property and wanted to knock down the house. The house was not going to count. And it was to happen the following week, from what I was told. So I went into high gear, and I pleaded and cried and did everything I could think of to get a $30,000 check immediately so that we could put the one-room schoolhouse on a flatbed truck and bring it over here. And once we transported it here, I'm not very sure some of the neighbors loved it. In fact, they hated it because it looked kind of ugly, but it looked very ugly. But then we went through the process with some wonderful people who I don't see at the moment, but they brought it back to life and made it what it is today, the original look that it had. But it was all because I guess when a woman cries, she can get all kinds of things, even out of nasty senators. So that's the funny story, but the very fortunate story that I was able to get the money so quickly and beat it out of the prior place to its current place. That's the whole story at the beginning.
Sure?
Yes, absolutely. This is Nancy Seligson, again, for those of you who just came up, who is the current Mamaroneck Council President.
Thanks, Carol, and happy Bicentennial Schoolhouse Day to everyone. I'm really happy to be here because it is a beautiful celebration to honor all those who've worked so hard to bring this schoolhouse back to life and to remind us of our important history. This schoolhouse reminds us of our initial promise for education for all those people who are just residents and citizens of our community and of the state. So I understand that it was one of the first schoolhouses built in New York State for public school education. That's pretty important, and it certainly is so important today. So that's one great reminder. While we're having this resurgence of all things Hamilton, and I was going to talk about that too, Catherine, and this whole Revolutionary Era interest, we are so fortunate to have all these beautiful landmarks and important historic places in our very own community. We could have our own Revolutionary Era tour. As recently the Journal News had a spread about all the Hamilton areas in the county, we could do that for the Revolutionary Era right here in Mamaroneck. I love that idea and think that would be a good homework assignment. Also today, the Journal News had a great article. Doesn't often happen, but it did, for this wonderful event. So I also really want to thank Gloria for making this happen. I thank Susie for making this happen. Thank Carol for bringing this to life. It really is important for our community. And I, for one, was thrilled when it moved here and watched the transformation from what it didn't look like, it wasn't supposed to look like, to what it looks like now. Because we're lucky to have it here. It's beautiful, and everyone appreciates having it here. So thank you all for coming out. Thanks for all your hard efforts, and happy Bicentennial Schoolhouse Day.
Is our wonderful Mayor, Norman Rosenblum, Mayor of Mamaroneck.
Thank you, Carol. The only problem going last is everybody said everything you wanted to say. But first of all, welcome to the friendly village of Mamaroneck. We have been rated as the #1 small town and community in New York State for several years, the past 6 or 7 years. I think there's a reason for it, and the reason for it is the people I'm looking at. And people such as Gloria Pritz, who has a sense of history and a sense of importance of education. It is always my thought, and it continues to be so, that the greatest gift that anyone can give another person or another group is an education. That's the key core of any success that the individual or group will have to do. And it certainly represents this here. The fact that Gloria, who may appear to people as very shy and sitting back, I can tell you the number of emails and telephone calls I've gotten over several years as to where are we going to have any classes in this building and so on. That's the type of individuals the Village of Mamaroneck is blessed to have. The greatest gift that this village does have, and surrounding areas, including Larchmont, the town of Mamaroneck, are the volunteers, those that give of itself and have a love for their community. And I'm getting the high sign? Oh, okay. All right. Anyway, not to talk too long, I've noted for the past several years the best speech a politician can do is a short one. I will end in this, which was a comment that Carol made before, talking about what is here, what is not here, and how to save your culture. And the history of not only in education, but this building is saving your culture. Those that do not remember history are doomed to create and repeat the mistakes. And with this, you will not repeat the mistakes. So I will say one thing that the Village of Mamaroneck has done is the Village of Mamaroneck is now successfully going to move LMC-TV into the old firehouse. There were alternative moves for that, but we thought this is the best. That's another key, like in education, is the media. The media has changed and is disappearing, and LMC-TV represents one of the cores of the democratic process. That's that. And I would also say that we, with Catherine Desmond, I don't know if she's still here, who I just understand donated the horse hitch in front, was key to looking for a home for a museum education center. Happened very quickly. We are now about to open up the 4th season of the Marine Education Center right on the other side of the park as you go in. That's going to be expanded. And I will tell you that I think it's a great idea that the Village of Mamaroneck, in fact, should have a Village of Mamaroneck museum. We will work on that and looking for a physical place. That's the only hard part. That I promise. God bless America. Thank you all.
Liberty Montessori would like to present you with this for all the assistance that you have given to them.
I have just been told that Tom Murphy has just arrived. He is a member of the board of the town of Mamaroneck, and we thank him very much for coming. So thank you all. For me, I'm going to turn this back over to Gail, who will continue the program.
So thank you. Sorry, I have to thank a few people as well. Obviously, once again, Mike Tripico, the organizer, the chairperson for all of us. He worked tirelessly with the village and the town of Mamaroneck. Thank you, Village of Mamaroneck, for all you've done, from the porta stands to the tents to the chairs you're sitting in. Thank you, Village of Mamaroneck. We're also very, very thankful to our sponsors, DCH Toyota City, and if you haven't seen yet this fabulous commemorative booklet, we have them over here for everyone who's here. It gives a full list of all of our sponsors in the village, and Toy Box, thank you for all of your efforts, and they also have the free popcorn here. Special thanks really to the students of Mamaroneck School District and Rhinebeck School District. This is everything here is done by the kids. We now would like to introduce Peter Fellows, who is the Executive Vice President of the Historical Society. Peter's going to explain a little bit about to you. Oh, he also created the Jubilee booklet, but he's going to explain a little bit about early education in Mamaroneck.
After Anne and John Richbell, who were the founders of Mamaroneck, passed, probably the most influential person was Caleb Heathcote, who lived up on the hill, not this one, just over Heathcote Hill. And I'm good, thank you. And in 1704, he decided we really have to do something about educating our young people. So he sent to England for a schoolmaster to come over and teach. And he taught 4 months of the year in Mamaroneck. And then, like a circuit rider, he went to Bedford for 4 months, and then around to Rye for 4 months, and then back to Mamaroneck. Now, where they taught the children, we're not sure, possibly in his brick manor up on the house. But you know, there's a transition, because when the Richbells were in charge, it was their land initially, and they had tenants on the land, and they were like the rulers, and gradually it became more of a town with the inhabitants taking charge for their own destiny. And in 1697 we have them starting to do town minutes of meetings and what they're going to do and who's going to make sure the fences are the right height and who's going to make sure that the hogs are not going out wild. And when they do, we catch them and then we eat them. So it's from these minutes that we hear of the first schoolhouse in Mamaroneck. It's about 1733. If you walk down here to Orienta, where it then joins onto the old post road, and then there's another little Orienta Avenue just a few yards away, and we think that's where that schoolhouse was. And the town got into the habit of doing annual meetings each year, which is good because they were annual, in the schoolhouse, and we noticed that it stopped in 1776. I don't know why. Nothing happened for a few years, and it didn't start up again until after the war. 1796, I think it was, the state said, we want the people who live in the community to support education by paying money towards schools. And so the locals decided to buy some property on Weaver Street. 38 people purchased this piece of property, and they built a lovely little town, a lovely little schoolhouse on it about 1802. It's still there today. It looks a little different. It's 84 Weaver Street. It's a house now, but it still looks very, very similar to what it was. But that wasn't enough, because the town was beginning to expand and beginning to get larger, and so they decided to divide it into two school districts. They used sort of Rockland Avenue as the dividing line, and everything from Rockland to Mamaroneck River, that's District 1, and the other side was District 2. And they put up a second schoolhouse. You know where Smashburger is on yeah, everybody knows Smashburger, right? Yeah, all right. That's where it was located. That's this house place right here, about 1816. And this is where they were educating children. It's still elementary school, you understand. But this is where they were educating them, and they kept that building until 1855, when they said, you know, it's getting too small. Because in 48, we got a train. You've seen those, right? They go like really fast, and they carry people out here. So they decided the whole population was just growing so fast they needed a much bigger place. But rather than tear down the old building, somebody decided to buy it for a home. Jotham Seaman, and his wife Emily decided to purchase it. And Jotham was a veteran from the War of 1812. Does anyone know when the War of 1812 was? It's a quick test to see who's here. So they got all their friends together. They brought oxen and carts, and they put this building on those carts, took them straight up Mamaroneck Avenue over the tracks, which at that time were ground level, over the Sheldrake River, turned left at Franklin Street. It's now called Waverly. And there were all these lots there, and they put one on the lot. From 1855, the Seamans lived in that house until 1993. They made this place, and if you haven't gone inside it, you have to go inside it, into a 3.5-room house, right? I don't know if that includes the washroom, the bathroom, kitchen, dining room, living room. I'm running out of rooms. But it's amazing that it would have been saved like that. And then they said, you know, the last people in the family, Louis and his sister Dorothy, were at the Sarah Newman home living there, and they were ready to sell the property. Fortunately, serendipitously, somebody noticed that it was for sale. Gloria Prince. And fortunately, she was able to find people who would support the vision of saving this place. And what I'd like to do is to invite Bill Frazier up, because he worked on it, restoring it, and he's going to be able to tell you what it was like putting this place together to make it what it was back in 1816.
There he is.
Well, John Quadrini, I had done some roofing work, and John Quadrini knew that, and he said, when we move this building, we'd like you to see if you can put a new roof on it. Well, believe it or not, it became more involved than just the roof. We started stripping it, we had to strip it down, we stripped it down to the, what they call sheathing boards. And the roof was actually taken off the building, and it was collapsed and laying down on top of it. They had a big blue top over it so water wouldn't just pour through it. And that's the way it was delivered, because when they moved it from Waverly Avenue, it wouldn't fit under the trees and wires. That's why that was done. But anyway, we got the roof. I did the roof on it, and everybody liked the way the roof looked. I put a bell tower on there because we weren't sure if it had one exactly like it, but most of the New York State schoolhouses did have them, so we put one. Anyway, it became more involved. The next thing, it needed a new floor. It needed walls, it needed windows, it needed the outside done. So if you really want to see what this looked like and how we progressed with it, if you go over to the white tent, we have an album that shows you all the steps that we took bringing it up to where it is now. So that's about it. If you go inside, you'll see the progress. And I want to thank everybody for coming out today, and it's great to see you all. And God bless.
So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Bill. And Bill and Peter will both be over at the tent if you want more information. And also, I just want to point out, when you pick up your commemorative booklet, that Peter gave a blow-by-blow historical tour of sites that you can walk to right from here, including the graveyard of the Richbells right over here, the Delancey Cooper House, and he gives a whole thing here that it's really worth taking a walk around. Don't miss the Colonial Bakery over here with recipes from Williamsburg. And we have the Central Singers coming at 1:30, fourth grade Central Singers, and at 2:30 the Chatsworth Chimes and Strolling Strings. So we hope you'll stay and enjoy that. And thank you all for coming.
Welcome to our 1816 one-room schoolhouse, and you are very, very fortunate. This building was a resident here in Mamaroneck, and in 1993, my mother, okay, Gloria Pritz, who's right there, wrote, who will be 92 in July 3rd. And the gentleman next to him, who is one of the, next to her, which is one of the focal points in this Jubilee, is my I like to say my older brother, but he's actually younger, okay, my brother John. So, in 1993, this was a resident, and it was going to be knocked down. My mother basically wrote a grant to the state to get money. The village was supportive to get it raised and moved, and the village had this nice property for the schoolhouse to be moved to as a historical building. If you look later on, John, if you point, if you look later on, that little hatch there is just to show you what the whitewash, the paint whitewash, and some of the beams of the original 1816 when it was built are there. And you know, the paint, obviously the whitewash is falling off and chipping, but that's what that is there for. At 12:30 is going to be, you know, some politicians and people talking, and one of the people is going to talk about how the schoolhouse got moved, and all volunteers. My mother, like I said, was the village historian, still is, but many people helped put a foundation in, get it moved down here. all volunteerism, and it was excellent, excellent. 1816, actually, let me start from the beginning. 1704, a gentleman named Caleb Heathcote came from Europe, came from London. And in Europe, obviously, they were much, much older than we are in this country. They had schools. The kids needed to learn. And he got here and he said, well, wait a minute. There's no school here. How are the kids, because it was a farming area, and how are the kids going to learn, you know, if they're going to sell a cow or sell some of their fruit or some of their vegetables, how are they going to figure out how to sell it? How much to sell it for? So we need kids to learn. We call it today, what do you call numbers and stuff in school now? Say math. Math. I'm a little older. We called it what? Okay. Arithmetic. Thank you. Back in 1816, or when there was schoolhouses before this, they called it sums or figuring. And we're going to do some in a little bit later. But Caleb Heathcote was the focal point to get schools brought here to Mamaroneck. The schools went from 1st to 8th grade. And not everyone went to school every day. Why? Why didn't they go to school every day? Think.
The farm.
Farming. But if this was 1816, and I picked on this lady right here, and somebody yelled out the answer, I would have had to got this switch and hit their hand. It was very. Schools are strict because they have to be. But it was very, very strict. You had to sit up straight. You couldn't yell out. You had to do exactly. You had to do exactly what the teacher said. So, with that being said, they are. Do you know why they didn't go to school every day?
Well, because they were busy helping on the farm.
They were busy helping on the farm. Just to give you a number, in 1831, there were 114 kids here in Mamaroneck, in this area, who were of 1st to 8th grade age. 64 went to school. The others did not. And of those 64, they didn't go every day. If there was something during the spring or it was planting season, and there was a lot to do, they didn't go to school. Maybe they went to school one day that week. And in the fall, when they were harvesting their crops and stuff, they went to school maybe less. So not everyone went to school every day. There was one teacher for the schoolhouse, 1st through 8th grade. And that teacher, your teachers in school have to go where? Say college. College, right. They had to go to college to get a teaching degree. Back then, and it was mostly men, if not all men, males, back then they would come and be interviewed, and if the politicians, the people in charge, thought he was smart, he got the job. He got the job. And let me find the right date for you, just so you have a feel, all right? And he was paid in the 1870s $60 a year. $60 a year. Now,
That's a lot better.
well, it was decent, but he didn't have to pay for his house because he lived with on one of the farms. And those people, he didn't have to pay for food. Where he lived, they also paid for food. But each child who came to school had to do something. There was no heat. So in the wintertime, when they come to school, look right there, how was the school heated? By the fire, by the fireplace. So when they came to school, right behind this column, they had what's called a potbelly stove. So each kid would have to bring a log to school so that they wouldn't be cold in the winter. If you were late for school, it was very important, you can't be late, but if you were late, you had to bring the teacher something so you didn't get in a lot of trouble. maybe an apple or a sandwich, so that you wouldn't get in trouble. Because if you ever got in trouble, there was other chores that you had to do which weren't fun, like clean the outhouse. What's an outhouse? What do you think it is? Who knows what an outhouse is? What? Right. They didn't have bathrooms in here. They had bathrooms over there behind a tree in a little building where they dug a hole. And sometimes that had to be cleaned, and that was not fun to do that. Okay. People, what grade are you guys in? Fourth. Have you learned about the colonial times? Yes. People from Europe came to this country because of what? A better life, and what we call religious persecution, meaning they couldn't do their religion in that country. So one of the things in school that was very important to learn was the Bible. And the first thing kids did when they came to school, most of the time, was they do some basic reading. Now this was not from 1816, this is a lot later, but this is an example of a book that maybe the kindergarten or first grade, so this says kindergarten, you only went to school in first grade to 8th grade. But this is an example of an old book that the beginning readers would learn. And I have to be very careful, try and show you another page, okay, that it doesn't fall apart. So the books we have nowadays in your schools are much better. But back then, the teacher, for his $60 a year, very often had to buy the supplies, like books and slate boards. But that's an example of, not an 1816, but another book. Okay, what else do we have here? This we call, on the board now, we call what in school? What do you call it? Math. Mathematics. When we went to school, we called it arithmetic. In 1816, they called it sums or figuring. So now it's time to, in 1870s, the community said, well, we have teachers and we have students and we need money to pay the teacher his $60 a year. So they had a tax. They had a tax. And the tax was on your dogs. If you had a dog, every dog was taxed 50 cents. So if you had 2 dogs, it cost you it cost you $1 for the year. And all those the 50-cent tax on dogs paid for the teacher. All right? We're going to do math in a minute, but my mother reminded my brother that this was one of the first readers, even back in the mid-1800s. It was called McGuffey's First Electric Reader.
Eclectic.
I've said for years my brother is smarter than me. But, okay, eclectic. What does eclectic mean for these guys? Eclectic. I couldn't even read it right.
Mixed up.
Mixed up.
Mixture of.
Mixture of. Right.
From a whole bunch of different places.
From a whole bunch of different places. And this is an example of a page of one of the readers from that time. Okay, I'm sure you guys in school could read this pretty easily. Let me see if I can just open to another page. Okay, and they had lessons and what have you. Okay, so.
Can I just mention one other thing that I find real interesting about...
You wanted to read that?
No. Oh, no. Well, actually, the source of some of the things that are in our culture, like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, right? And things like that, right? Mary Had a Little Lamb. It's come from that. That's where they started.
And another thing that my brother just reminded me of, I told you in 1704 Caleb Heathcote came. What did they call it at the time? All right, to get started schools. See if I can read this properly. The Society for the Propagation of the Gospel in Foreign Parts. Mamaroneck was a foreign part for those from England who came to this country. So I'll say it again, that's a big word. The group that Caleb Heathcote got involved with is the Society for the Propagation of the Gospel in Foreign Parts. Okay, now it's time for math. In 1816, schools, you have to have discipline in the classroom for teaching. We all know that. But in 1816, if you didn't do what the teacher said, you got in trouble. So, all you have to do now is follow directions. Get your slate board out, pick up your piece of chalk, and we're going to do some figuring or some sums. All right, everyone ready? We're not going to do them all because there's other people waiting, getting the high sign. We're going to do number 2. Put a square box. Then put the plus sign. Then put an 8. And then it equals 14. So in that box, you have to put the number that added with 8 equals 14. When you're done, hold up your slate board. Hold up your slate board. You pass. You pass. 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 Take your time, sweetie. It's okay. Because remember, we had 1st through 8th graders. So we had to wait. I'm trying. I'm working on it. Okay? All right. Under that, as she is finishing, let's do a subtraction. Back then, they probably called it take away. Put an 8, number 8. Put an 18. Minus or take away 11 equals, then your box, put the correct number in the box.
7. I had that.
7, pass. Pass. Oh, you didn't pass. Why? You forgot the box. You have to do exactly what the teacher says.
Gotta follow directions.
Oh, you forgot the box too.
Gotta follow directions.
You gotta follow directions. I'm working on it. Okay. Now, erase your board. Put everything back the way it was. We're getting the high sign that there's a line to go real quickly. At 12:30, there's going to be a talk, which is in about 20 minutes. Are there any, did I say about that?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Any quick questions? Question.
Why tax the dogs? Because of their blood's on the farm?
You'll have to ask the people from 1870. We weren't there in the beginning. We have no idea.
I can't imagine.
A great question.
Dogs were very important.
Right, exactly. That's probably why they taxed you. Maybe I'm saying. Last question. If you didn't have any dogs, you didn't have to pay for the tax. But back then on the farm, everyone had dogs because the dogs would chase away some, wild animals, foxes and stuff that may get their chickens or what have you. But great question. Hey, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, put everything back, and we shall enjoy the day. Oh, kids, go in the back. On your way out, you can.
Anybody.
Oh, anybody wants to ring the bell?
Ring the bell.
Ring the bell.
Snap it down. That's it. That's it. Good. There you go. No, it's not just pulling. It's.
Well, they're coming in.
Okay. Good. Okay.
What?
Okay. Great.
Well, now you know.
I love your face.
Let me tell you
That is
something. You ever
gorgeous.
see her here?
There you go. That's it.
South Detroit. She took the midnight train going anywhere. A singer in a smoky room. The smell of wine and cheap perfume.
Well, as someone who has just come to this lovely event, what are your feelings about the day and what have you learned? And in a couple of sentences?
It's a great day. I mean, it's wonderful to see people turn out and see all the exhibits, and the welcoming ceremony I thought was great. I mean, I learned a lot about the schoolhouse and how it came to be moved here and who saved it, and yeah, it was just so interesting.
And what did you think about an emphasis on saving history.
So important. Absolutely critical. And Mamaroneck has lost some historic properties, and we need to save the Delancey Cooper House, and we need to save other old buildings just to preserve it for the generations to come.
Thank you.
Such a fabulous day for Mamaroneck. I have driven on the street, Boston Post Road, hundreds of times. I always wanted to go inside the schoolhouse. What a treat. It was just fabulous. So much history. Wonderful. And the people that had the insight, Gloria Pritz, John Quadrini, Susie Oppenheimer. God bless them, and God bless you for doing all this work.
Well, Mike Tripico set this up.
Now we need to have a museum. We need to have a museum. That would be fabulous.
I couldn't agree more.
What a day. Wonderful.
Gloria, this has been such a special treat to have you back here during this ceremony. What are your feelings and thoughts?
It is just has been overwhelming with just so many people here with the celebration and just being honored within my schoolhouse. Of course, I call it my schoolhouse.
It is.
But it belongs to the village. And here at Harbor Island, this precious, precious park, I've seen it grow up to be the park that it is today. And the village has done just fabulous things for us here in our community. That for one thing, the Japanese cherry blossoms all over in early May. It is just breathtaking. Yes.
Well, the schoolhouse couldn't be in a better place, I think, to be appreciated. And thanks to you, and especially you and Susie and all.
So many people had something to do with having this schoolhouse here. From Susie, from Bill Fraser. I remember taking pictures of him putting the roof on and even just the moving. I remember the truck with holding the schoolhouse going over the Brooklyn Avenue Bridge because they couldn't go under the railroad. It was too big. So it has just been wonderful. I am thrilled. Thank you.
Fun to see it in all those different stages, I'm sure, and look back on all the different steps that it took to get it where it is today.
Working hard to get my fill. Everybody wants a thrill. Paying anything to roll the dice. Just one